racism, it exists for every race, to every race, in every country that there's ever been. But our country's supposed to be better. We're supposed to be the greatest nation that ever lived, and part of that means truly equal rights and opportunities, and to whatever degree our economy will allow. And that's just not the case, and it's not the case intentionally.
Welcome to Spiritual Connect Radio, above average black men.
Hey,
we got me, Chris Senior. We got those guys to introduce themselves, man. I'll let them go.
Devin Pender right here. Someone that just strives to get better every day.
Positivity. My man is out here.
That made me laugh. Like a rock commercial.
Sign me up.
Justin Lamar, I'm also striving to get better. I'm a comedian. I'm making fun of everybody here. I love these are my brothers and my second dad, so man, I'm glad to be here.
Well, we broke the record because Lafayette came in like right away. Usually we kind of late.
It's a little service.
Right, but yeah, I'm Chris Jr. And again, I'm probably in the same boat, man, about just spreading love, positivity, and that's why we're here. It's a spotlight. People in our community that are doing great things that don't necessarily get the love all the time. So, yeah, kind of second.
So I had a question. I want to start the show out with the question, right?
What's up?
Well, let me tell our guests, then you say the question. Marcus Hayes is going to be calling in, sports writer, sometimes controversial, always on point. So stay tuned, man. Grab your friends. If you got some Eagles questions or Phillies questions or whatever you got, man. We're going to have a good time tonight, man. But go ahead, Justin. I'm sorry.
All right, so I know what this show is, right, is above average black men. Because we oftentimes don't get highlighted for what we do positively. Correct. So I get that. My question is, are we going to bring some above average black women on here too?
Yeah, we are. Chris and I talked about that. We are.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I was talking to a young lady today who has interest in coming on the show with some of her girlfriends, and she's married, and because the question that was posed about marriage. Remember on the Facebook question was posed, and she wanted to talk about marriage and relationships. So I told her, if you know somebody, I would love to create some roundtable discussions, and not all of them in here. Like we talked about it, somewhere we can actually sit around the table and have more space. And just talk about it, man. Because I can take this in. We can take as long as the internet, we can do the radio. Yeah. But the podcast, yeah. So if you know something, you know something. I would love to talk about race. I would love to get people in different ethnicities to have a real open conversation about not, Like I was talking to somebody today when the person tells me I got a black friend, that's usually the sign for me. They say I got a black friend, I got a white friend or a Hispanic friend. Like, really? You got one?
Yeah. It's like, I know now, I don't know about y'all, but for me, I try to avoid those conversations as much as possible.
Yeah, I have to, because you used to follow me. That's why I got off. You used to be something to me. So, yeah, but I also think, to me, and we'll get to what we're talking about, I think that goes into truth and honesty, because things will never get better if you don't start having those conversations. So, but you do have to know when enough is enough.
Right.
You do got to know when you can be in those conversations, not be in those conversations. But I think, we are where we are now because nobody wants to talk about it. And people of other ethnic groups think it's okay, from their perspective. I don't know what they're watching. I don't know what they're paying to, but they think it's okay. So, and I think even on our side, we need to have healthy discussions. Not burn down the village, kill, but, real healthy discussions. And I think that's the only way it gets better for the next generation. We were on that path. If you go back and look at the 60s with Martin Luther King and, even Malcolm X, they were making noise, but they were having some type of dialogue. So then we just stopped talking about it because we thought we arrived.
Yeah, and that's why I guess I brought that conversation or this topic up tonight about just the truth and power, because the truth is so valuable.
Oh yeah.
And I just had questions around it that I would love to have with all of you, and some of those questions, we had prior to this were on one side of the truth, you have there are people who are scared to hear the truth. You know what I mean? Like they feel as though it might hurt their feelings. Pride gets in the way, ego gets in the way. But then on the other side of that too, you have people who are scared to actually tell the truth. You know what I mean? Because they feel like they're saving somebody or like sparing someone's feelings or doing them a favor. So again, wanted to kind of have that conversation tonight because again, I feel as though truth is in power, and the example we used from our last show is kind of when we coach and we talk to kids and you're telling that kid straight up, like, yo, this is not for you. You got other skills?
Yeah, you didn't get hockey.
No, you a hater over here. You wasn't never nothing. Now you hating on me.
I'm here with you in the gym. I see it.
But I think it all ties together, even with Marcus Hayes, because, you know, being the sports writer is not always popular. Because, you know, people want you, they want you to write, you know, from emotion. They don't want you to write what you see. They want you to lead the Eagles camp because, you know, I'm an Eagles fan, so don't get it wrong. Jalen Hurts completed 3 out of 15 passes, and you would talk about how pretty 3 passes look. And that's what they expect. They don't want you to write that, okay, this may be a dismal year. We may go, you know, 5 and 10.
That's how I feel.
You know,
The only harder sports job than a sports writer is probably a referee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Two people that can't do nothing right.
Yeah, when it comes to the truth, see, when you tell the truth, it reveals something about you. It does. It takes courage to tell the truth. It takes courage to say that, you know what, this is what I see, especially when other people don't see it. But also, I think it tells a lot about you when you don't tell the truth, because to me, don't tell me you have my best interest in heart and you won't tell me the truth. You know, I would expect, the 3 of you, I would expect you to call me on something that was wrong. Not in a abrupt or rude way, but I think that's what relationships is. Relationship is the ability to say, look, hey, you're not right. It's like I say this all the time. If I was hanging out with a group of guys and I found out that one of them was beating his wife, I would say something. I'm not your friend, if I'm gonna let you continue to have negative behavior. I think that's where relationships, to me, the essence of a true relationship is the ability to tell the truth and receive the truth. Because we all got some mess, man. Let's be honest, man. We all got some mess, man. And we got blind spots. We got blind spots. That kid you was talking about, when you tell him, like, dude, you ain't making it, he still think he gonna be,
you come in the gym, you just throwing it up from half court with one shot. Don't practice on nothing. You're not even putting the work ethic that shows something like that.
I'm almost 60 years old, and you can't get past me. So what you think you gonna play at? Yeah.
No, it's in our best interest in our relationship for me to tell you the truth. It's gonna all go by you. All three of us.
But don't be surprised. Don't be surprised.
You trying to hold on to it. These kids, man.
I can hold and trip with the best of them.
Right,
and it's only a foul if you get caught.
That's
That's all I'm
have to
saying.
get to the court.
No, but I'm talking about when you talking to these kids, man, that's the reality of it all. Like I tell them in a heartbeat, when I was playing, the 15-footer was a layup for me. I still can knock it down. I can walk in the gym, take up one, knock it down. They're out there shooting 3-point. If you 1 for 12 out there, and I'm 8 for 8 or 8 for 10, who you think I'm not on bad? I was scoring more points. But to them, it's not about making it. It's about taking the shot. And when you have that mentality, how are you gonna, if you don't worry about making it, how are you gonna play in the league? And some of them, they never work on the handle. Or my favorite is, kids shoot from their waist and they say I'm cheating because I'll stand back here and I'll just do this all day long. But I think that's just one part of the truth. But even the truth in relationships, I think people continue bad habits because somebody doesn't tell them the truth.
Do you feel like it's more kind of difficult to tell people the truth today in this day and age more than any other time? And why? Like, how so? Like, why is it so hard to just be open and honest in any regards? Like, you can't tell people anything about themselves.
I would say it is more difficult nowadays, just because, especially my age group, the way we're brought up, you get, like I said, you get sold the Disney dream and everything, and, you have participation trophies and different things like that. And, when you grow up, life hits you. I ain't getting that.
He thought we was rich. I'm never going to forget this.
Real with y'all.
Listen, I don't know. Like, that's the baby. Yeah. Listen, that's the baby. Not my baby. Like, he like
those things like that. And when you grow up and that truth hits you, and you get that gut punch, you don't know how to deal with it in the real world. And I think that's hitting a lot of people in my age group especially.
Well, just for the records, I was like the Dallas State Farm commercial. Ain't no participation trip. We beat everybody. We were in the field. There ain't no participation trip. No, but I do think that's an excellent point because I think there's 3 reasons why it's so hard now. And one reason is we already talked about it is social media. Because social media allows you to paint these images of what you think either perfection is or what you think this person is or should be. And so many people, I've been in meetings where I've been in a room with a bunch of educated people, and some people have said, this is what I heard on social media. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, you got a law degree. You quote, you know what I mean? So that's the power of social media. So that's one
What's funny about social media is, like, I feel like you still feel like people spill their heart out on you. Like they give too much, So then like you said, just to piggyback and go what you said, like,
I'm gonna take it macro
seems like
lens.
things are honest.
I'm gonna take from macro lens. We talking about honesty, right? Recently, we had a couple leaders. I ain't gonna say no names. who honesty wasn't their forefront of focus. It was about being first.
Yeah.
It was about being right. It was never about being honest. And if that's what the leader's doing, my favorite quote was from Remember the Titans: "Attitude reflect leadership." So even I'm gonna lie, it affected me. It affected me too. Like once I seen our leaders lying, I was like, what's the point of telling the truth? What's the point? You telling me you can lie and wait to be the president? You know what I mean? You can lie. You can. It's not even just the presidents. It's politicians. You see, Cuomo just got fired.
But I think, but I also think it comes back to images. I think people look at social media, and they get caught on what
they believe is reality.
What they should look like. And what I should look like is I want to have this facade or paint this picture that I'm this person. If I got a lie to do it, it's okay. Because to your point, the highest office in the land can lie, and you catch them in a lie, and people just overlook it.
And pray, and it's not to overlook praise for it.
But I think this is where, I think that's just one. I think the other side of the coin is we've kind of lost our way, that we worry so much about what people think. I'm so worried about what Justin and Chris and Devin think that I allow my way to being what I think you think I should be. And I see a lot of that, man. People, man, I know I don't have it, so I'm gonna sit here and lie. Yeah, I went to Harvard, I went to Yale. I say all this stuff because I'm in a room of educated people.
But
that leaves so much damage in the long run, though, too, man. Because you got to almost keep it up. You got to lie even greater to expand upon it. And I've seen it from people that I've known in my life. I seen it.
But people who live in a moment don't think like. So you're thinking rational. If I care about what you think, more than anything else, it's a perfect example. I love sports analogy. When I used to coach, and you get the kid, and his father's telling him to shoot, don't pass it. And you know what I would do? Have a seat next to me. You want to listen to him? Go up there and sit next to him, because you can't play for me. Because this is how we're gonna do the game. Because this kid, his father thinks is going to the NBA. Now, first of all, he got a long way to go. Second of all, if he's not passing the ball at 12, where you going? So I think, but that's the same thing. We have these images in our head, and we lie to meet those images. And I think that's become more of a pattern. Then the third thing is, most people don't have a sense of remorse now. They lie, you catch them, they go to the next one. And you wrong for calling. Justin, I thought you were my boy, man. You gonna call me on the carpet. And that we live in that mentality, man. I mean, sports, politics, it happens all the time, man.
it's not just. I don't want to say it just now though. They've
been like that.
Been like
It just
that.
seems like
it used to seem like people had a sense of remorse. Now people do it. It's like they just keep piling. You could be right. You could be right.
He had sense of remorse. You got the guy that was trying to get king.
But that was also white privilege and arrogance. That was also white privilege and arrogance.
It's like a whole nother issue, right?
No, but it ties into that. But that was also white privilege.
Ronald Reagan.
Hey, what's going on, Marcus? Welcome to the show, bro.
Thanks, Chris.
How you doing, Mr. Hayes?
I'm in the room. I got my two sons in here, and I got Justin Lamar, the comedian.
How you doing,
so I don't know what he gonna say.
How you doing?
Okay.
But we're honored to have you here, sir. So they all got a few questions. So first of all, I just want to start by telling people if you can tell them who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Marcus Hayes. I'm a sports columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I've covered the Eagles as a beat writer in the past, the Phillies as a beat writer. And my passion, I guess, is basketball more than anything else.
Yes.
My wife played in college and I played in high school, so that's kind of who I am and what I do. So, but a lot of what I do really revolves around how sports and society sort of intersect. And, really, all my life, but much more so since Colin Kaepernick knelt for the national anthem in 2016. Sport and society in the United States especially have intersected in ways that might actually be unprecedented, considering the involvement of athletes in the George Floyd protests of the summer of 2020. So, it's just been an interesting time to be a sports columnist when you need to know about civil law and your civics and how the entire society interacts with sports, because really once you get past high school and even some high schools, sports is really business, and all politics is business. So what I do now is much different from what I did 10 years ago.
Well, we have a collegiate volleyball player X and two X. They don't like when I say X, collegiate basketball players. So we got some collegiate level athletes. But as you saw the clip, I've been advertising you as sometimes controversial, but always on point. And I think that ties into our topic about honesty and truth. So my first question is, how do you balance that? Because people hammer you, but I read the stuff because you don't agree with them.
I don't mean to contradict you, but I don't balance it. It's one of the reasons I'm considered controversial is because I'm always honest as far as I know how to be. Part of my job is, voicing my opinion, and you never get a false opinion, a contrived opinion from me. So I'm honest in that realm, or I guess in that aspect. But more to the point, I don't tell lies. Sometimes agents or front office people or players will ask us to sort of massage the truth. Yeah. And, it makes you a little bit unpopular when you won't play that game. And honestly, some of the bigger names in our business will willfully massage the truth or be disingenuous, lie by omission, ignore, really, really important aspects of certain issues to placate the masses or to placate their source. And, sports fans especially, they don't want to think too hard. They don't want to feel too much. They don't want the real world to interfere with their enjoyment of sports. But the price you pay when you pay for sports in college or the pros is, there's a monetary aspect to it. And as such, politics are about how the money is spent, how our money, our collective money is spent. So you can't escape it. So it's not really a balance for me. I think for some people it is a balance, and at that point you start to compromise and you lose your authenticity.
So Mr. Hayes, my question is Justin Lamar here. How you doing, sir?
I'm well.
Good. My question would be, so you talked about how your job changed. Maybe not your job changed, but how it was unprecedented change when all of a sudden the athletes became at the forefront of the political conversation. How did that change? Did that change the way that you write or cover it? Being that obviously you are a black man with your own experiences that you grew up with, and your dedication to truth, did that change? Did this current climate change the way you write?
Justin, it didn't change the way I write. It kind of changed the frequency with which I wrote, and I was writing for an audience that was interested in listening for a change. I mean, the Fritz Pollard board is an entity whose charter is to make sure the Rooney Rule is applied and obeyed, in that black coaches in football get chances to be head coaches at the NFL level, and coordinators and general managers as well. The head of the Fritz Pollard Society was John Wooten, who at one point was an Eagles general manager. And I've, stayed close to him, and literally every Super Bowl I've gone to, I've dealt with John Wooten and Troy Vincent, who's the vice president of the NFL under Roger Goodell, about these issues. So that's one facet of how my reporting and my writing has always involved, I guess a progressive slant, if that's the right way to put it. Okay. I mean, there is I haven't used the word redskin in my copy in 15 years. It's appeared in my copy, but it was put in there by white editors. Okay. I'm Native American and I'm black, and I have never for a moment in my life understood how someone didn't understand. Someone could argue that the word redskin isn't racist.
Trust me, I understand. It's a lot of stupid points.
My response to people who said that oh, it's not racist. I said, okay, well, I'm Native American. Call me a redskin right here and right now. Well, it hasn't happened because I look like I can take care of myself.
But to say, ain't you about 6'3", 6'4"?
Same reaction.
All signs
It was quiet. Like,
No, but I think it's an excellent point because I think race itself in this country, as we just got finished talking about it, is something people don't want to talk about, and people who are not often on the victim side of it don't see it as being real. They don't see the harm in it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's interesting. There's a saying out there that our country at this point is 1/3 of the people want to kill the other third of the people, and the other third of people are fine watching it. The people who are most guilty in that are the people who are watching.
Yeah,
my issue has never been with racists. My issue has been with people who tolerate racism. Because you're not going to change the mind of a racist. They believe what they believe. But you can expect better behavior from people who aren't racist but tolerate racism. All they have to do is not tolerate racism. It's just that simple.
Right.
I mean, racism, at this point, most racism in America, when it comes to the nitty-gritty, is illegal.
Yeah.
But it's not prosecuted. It's institutional cultural racism that is illegal in practice, but not illegal illegal in principle, but not illegal in practice because it's just not prosecuted. So, and I'm talking about the kind of institutional discrimination that keeps people from having job opportunities, educational opportunities, these sorts of things. And all that said, my ultimate point is racism, it exists for every race, to every race, in every country that there's ever been. But our country's supposed to be better. We're supposed to be the greatest nation that ever lived, and part of that means truly equal rights and opportunities, and to whatever degree our economy will allow. And that's just not the case, and it's not the case intentionally.
Hey, this is Devin here. I just had a question. Like you said, you're someone that you love to tell the truth. I was just wondering how you dealt with, the reaction to your multiple pieces you've written, maybe in the past versus now. Like, how have you dealt with that reaction to the many pieces you've written on the different sports teams?
Well, are you talking about writing about social issues or just like saying Ben Simmons should be traded or
It could be both.
That's a social issue.
I knew that was good. It's all together here.
My reaction to negative comment or I guess if you believe that I'm wrong and you present your opinion about whatever I'm wrong about in a pleasant manner, not even a professional manner, just a courteous manner, that's cool. If you think Ben Simmons has a great future, wonderful, and I shouldn't, beat on Ben Simmons. I don't necessarily think he should even be traded. My point is, if you disagree with me about something, and just with a minimum of respect, voice that. I believe, if they're publishing my Twitter handle and they're publishing my email, I believe it's my responsibility to reply. But if you're disrespectful, vulgar, ignorant, abusive, then I'm either going to not reply or I'm going to, reply one time and I'm going to win. It's my job to, be able to win these little petty arguments. And I'm going to block you both in my email and on my Twitter account. My job is not to be abused by people who largely 95% of the time anonymously want to abuse me and have other people of their ilk, get their jollies from. That's not part of my job. My job is to very, very simply see what happens in the sporting world, do what happens specifically in the sporting universe in Philadelphia, and apply my perspective to it generally by doing good reporting, getting the facts straight and saying this is what I think this means or this is what I think this should mean. It's not to be your punching bag. And one of the things that really kind of annoys me is when I will block somebody on Twitter who has, called me a name or been vulgar to me in public, and I'll block them, and one of their buddies will be like, "Oh, he's got a thin skin." You're reprehensible. It has nothing to do with my skin or my feelings or anything like that. Why would interacting with me, corresponding with me, not because I'm any great shakes, but because I have access that you don't have, corresponding with me and getting answers to questions or, voicing your opinion about me is a privilege for you. It's not your right. You don't get to beat me up because you're a subscriber. I hear that all the time. Well, I'm a subscriber. You have to deal. No, I don't. I'm not dealing with that.
That's an entitled American mindset, right?
And that kind of goes into my question. Previously, this is Chris Jr. here. Prior to you calling in, we were just talking about the difference between being able to tell the truth maybe years ago compared to today. So you've already kind of hinted on that, how people reach out to you on Twitter. But we definitely want you to kind of dig into that a little bit more in regards to and other ways that you may cope with, being open and honest with people and people not necessarily being that receptive to that.
Well, it's interesting. There was a point where being a fan of a sport meant that the players worked for you. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm a fan of this sport, and these guys need to show up in shape. They need to give a lot of effort, and they need to commit to my municipality for me to be loyal to them, spend money, and pay their salaries. That changed right around the time the process began. And it didn't change because of the process. I think it changed simultaneous to the process. It was coincidental. But all of a sudden, players, you either, as a reporter, you either supported the team or you were a hater. All right? Mm-hmm. Now, when I was 17, 18 years old, I loved the Philadelphia 76ers, and I loved Syracuse University men's basketball. I grew up near Syracuse, but I was a huge Sixers fan. And, when the Sixers lost to the Celtics, it broke my heart. When Syracuse perpetually lost to Georgetown, it broke my heart. They lost to Indiana in the NCAA championship game, it broke my heart. When I turned about 20, and I'm not casting judgment on anyone else, when I turned about 20, I just stopped caring about specific sports teams, and I enjoyed more sort of following favorite players.
Me too, sir.
Yeah. That said, I haven't had an allegiance to any team in over 30 years, and I don't think any sports writer or sports broadcaster should have, or is certainly not voice, any sort of bias or allegiance to any team in doing their job. You see that all the time now.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like you see that now a lot more often where they're promoting their teams.
Well, for me,
yeah, so I don't really, to answer your question, what happened around 2010, 2015 is you were cast as a hater of Ben Simmons if you thought he should be traded. Even if you thought he should be traded for the betterment of Ben Simmons, you can't tweet, write, say anything negative about a team or a player or a coach or a general manager without it being black or white. You hate this guy, you love it. You can't say Howie Roseman's good at this, and because no one wants to hear, oh, you're just jocking Howie Roseman, or you can't say Howie Roseman's bad at drafting. Oh, you're a Howie hater. Well, no, it's not. That's not the way the world works. Have a child. Once you have a child, you understand that ain't the way the world works. Everything has context, everything has perspective, and if you want to ignore that, that's fine. But it's also your loss. So that's one way that covering sports has changed. It's become a battle, and one of the problems. Here's one of the big problems with sort of supporting a team as a sports writer or a sports caster, okay? Mm-hmm. When the team does well, you're happy or whatever, and like me. So, and this happens all the time with teams that are like 500, like they're pretty good. What happens is you become, as a person, as a human, you become invested in the team, and they're close to being really good, and you get angry that they're not, and you don't necessarily judge them fairly and objectively. And I would like to take some sort of credit, like, oh, I've resisted the urge, and I have, this is my ivory tower. But the reality is, I just don't care. I just don't care about these teams. I really don't care about the players or coaches. There are some guys I like. There are some guys that, I'm a human being. You have good relationships with some people. You have bad relationships with other people. But I'm not rooting against, like, Deshaun Jackson, who I very much dislike. Nor am I rooting for Fletcher Cox, who I really kind of like. Yeah. It's just, they're just part of the scenery as far as I'm concerned.
Well, one of the things I got to say about you, Marcus, is you are amazingly consistent. From when I see you on TV to we did the Career Cafe for Strawberry Mansion, the interview you did with Zaire Franklin, on the town hall meeting, the interview you did with Zaire Franklin at the school we did Shirley's Angels. You've been the same guy, man, and that's the thing I think is remarkable. Every time we have a conversation, you're the same exact way.
Well, what's interesting about that? Do you guys ever watch The Office? Are you familiar with the character Daryl?
Yeah, they're laughing. Yeah, you just got this generation. All three of them like, yeah.
All right, so my daughters, who are 14, 12, and 9, are kind of getting into The Office, so it's on a lot. It's like they get 30 episodes in a row, so it's in our house, it's on a lot. So there was a point where Daryl was sort of dating Kelly, who was kind of dating him to make Ryan jealous or whatever. But anyway, she said she said this to the TV interviewer people, the people doing the reality show. She said, Daryl is the most complicated man I've ever dealt with. He says exactly what he thinks all the time. What does that? What kind of game is he playing?
Yeah.
Now.
Everybody loves Daryl, and everybody loves me, but that's why everybody loves Daryl, because he's predictable.
Right. Yeah.
And he's authentic. And I'm not always right, and I'm not always pleasant, I'm not always funny, but I'm always authentic. You're never going to I'm not phony. And, to your point, Chris, it becomes very easy. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like when you go to a place that has a certain flavor of type of food. Like, if you go to, like, Outback, or Olive Garden, you know exactly what you're going to get. You might not want it all the time, but you know exactly what you're going to get,
But I think it's important because, both, I say this all the time, I think being around you and Zaire, Zaire Franklin plays for Indianapolis Colts, you two of the most humblest dudes. It's like, not that I'm nobody, but I'm in this room with you and him, I'm like the third wheel, and you guys always treated me just like you treated each other. So I thought that was so cool, man. Even the kids noticed that. The kids was like, hey, how long you known him? Yeah.
One of the things about Zaire that I really appreciate, and you see this every once in a while, and you really see it more in elite athletes who either have experienced real loss or have sort of, kind of 50-50. If they fought their way through and really made it, they can be incredibly arrogant and resentful like Tom Brady, or they can be incredibly humble and happy they made it like Hugh Douglas, who went to like Central Ohio for college. So it's a strange dynamic, but I think the thing that Zaire and I have in common is that we really appreciate the position we're in. And that goes for every position we've ever been in. Like when Zaire went to LaSalle, he didn't go to LaSalle High School like, oh, LaSalle's happy to have me, or lucky to have me. He went to LaSalle thinking, I can't believe I'm at LaSalle. Yeah. When I went to Syracuse, like when I played basketball, and went to the All-Star band things that I went to, I was just like blown away every step of the way. But when you come from very, very little, like he and I both did, and maybe you guys did or do too, when you get that opportunity, not only do you try to make the most of it, but you really relish it. How do you have a bad day? How can I have a bad day? Okay, so I've got, let's see, I've got probably 10 guys. I went to school with. I only graduated with like 35 people. So people a little older than me, a little younger than me. I got probably 10 of them who have gotten cancer from working in the mills, the mines, or on the farms since we graduated. And that was common in our area, you know. And I go to Lincoln Financial Field tomorrow night to cover a football game. You know, I'm not dealing with, you know, pesticide, herbicide. I'm not dealing with, you know, black lung and stuff like that. Those guys are dealing with real world problems. And every time I, you know, complain about the traffic on 95 from Bucks County where I live, which is, you know, like paradise, is like a fairy tale land up there. I'm driving from Bucks County in a nice car to go cover a football game, and I'm complaining that I got to sit in traffic for 20 minutes on 95. Like, what kind of idiot am I? So, you know, that perspective that he and I have, it's real. We really do just appreciate, and we also know it could be gone tomorrow. You know, we could be gone tomorrow. His industry could collapse tomorrow. My industry could collapse tomorrow. He could get hurt. I could get sued. Who knows? You know. So every time I go to work, every time I'm on a call like this or on a Zoom or anything like that, I really appreciate the opportunity to do it, because one day those calls aren't going to come.
Well, we appreciate having you, you know.
For sure.
We're just getting started out, so it's definitely inspiring to have you on, and just having this ability to kind of pick your mind and ask you some questions here. I know my homie Justin got another question for you.
Yeah. So you're talking to from one honest man to another. Is there ever a time where honesty gets you in trouble, Marcus? Like at home?
Constantly, yes.
That's an honest answer right there.
My wife made this stuff called zoodles tonight. It's zucchini noodles.
Yeah, I
and
had
a
that.
lemon sauce with butter.
That is,
yeah. You didn't want to be in my house tonight.
I hope you're not in earshot right now if you said that.
I'm not at home right now.
Oh, good, that's not bad.
I knew it was coming, and I knew it was going to be a struggle, because we've had it before. And our rule in our house is if you try it once and give it a good try, you don't like it, you don't have to eat it, because our kids are pretty good eaters otherwise. Like they're pretty good at trying stuff, and if they like it, they like it. They like some weird stuff too, you know. But my wife is a very adventurous eater, and I let her know in no uncertain terms that zoodles were probably not the best option.
I think that's kind of funny, and I feel like that's a great transition, like taking just honesty within the family. Like, do
Mark, you have to. I don't want to hold you up, because I know you got stuff to do.
Oh, I'm good. Yeah. My family is, one of the things in my family, one of the rules is you have to be very honest and you have to be very forthright, because there's really no benefit. Once you start lying, you never stop. No matter what the lie's about, you never stop lying once you start.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just not. It's too much work, you know.
So are your kids like into sports or anything like that? Do you take those opportunities to be honest in those moments too? I'm asking because my dad is here.
He about to dig on me.
This is almost like it's like a session. We about to dig into this here.
Yeah. My daughters actually. It's funny. We went to Utah to visit family friends 2 years ago in 19 before COVID, and I didn't realize how interested my daughters were in soccer. They play travel soccer and you know, that sort of thing. And they, you know, the older daughter plays for her school, but they were so interested in it. We were taping the U.S. Women's National Team World Cup games, and we'd go to like Yosemite National Park and come back to my friend's house 2 days later and binge watch the U.S. Women's National Team. And the youngest one has really started getting into watching kind of all sports, you know, golf. She'll watch golf with me and stuff. But yeah, you know, as I said, my wife was an athlete, I was an athlete. Sports are really big in our house. I'm actually at a travel soccer practice right now that is going to be shortened, I think, by a rain incident here. But I'm at a travel soccer practice. You know, at 9 o'clock this morning, I was taking the same kid to a soccer clinic. And yeah, it's a big part of our lives. All 3 girls play soccer, all 3 girls play basketball, and 2 of the 3 play lacrosse. and I wish I could get the older one to play because she'd probably be the better lacrosse player. She's kind of built for it. But yeah, it's a big part of our lives. And you know, it's really, I'll tell you a funny story. I met my wife who played at Penn. We knew, we had a mutual friend who was a coach at Penn. And this friend would open the gym on Sunday nights at 6. And for anybody who wanted to play that kind of knew her. So we had a pretty good run. It was the men's football team and coaches who wanted to play, and the women's basketball and volleyball teams, because a lot of the college volleyball players play basketball in high school. And my girlfriend at the time is she had played basketball in college with this coach that opened the gym, and I had just gotten to Philly. So that's where I met my wife, playing basketball on the Palestra floor at the University of Pennsylvania at the end of her senior season. And after every pickup game, we play from like 6 to 8. And after games, like some of us would go back and we would go to somebody's house and have dinner. But I was the first one to do it. I had kind of a bachelor pad, you know, I was living by myself. My girlfriend, I just moved to Philly, my girlfriend still lived in Syracuse. And I came back and I opened the door. My wife was the first person in the door. And she went over and got into sat on the couch and turned on Sports Center.
So you knew she was the one.
That's the one.
That was the lightning bolt right there. Wow. Yeah. And to this, you know, we watch Phillies game, and she loves the Sixers. She loves watching college. She loves women's college basketball. She loves the Sixers.
That's cool.
But she'll watch anything. Yeah, so sports is pretty big in our house. And my youngest daughter loves watching sports. My middle daughter likes watching some sport, and my oldest daughter likes watching YouTube.
I was just asking because I just wanted to know if you keep that same honesty when they're performing too, you know? Like
the performance was lackluster.
My sons are digging at me because I was honest with them, man. When they wanted to play, I took them to the hood where I grew up at. You know, this is where they play to get out. This is not they play picking people up and even my youngest in volleyball. If you're gonna play this game, this is the level you need to play at. So, I wasn't the guy that's sitting there saying you're going to Duke, you're going to Kentucky. I just wasn't. I was the guy like, yo, you at the size now, unless you get really good at something, you're a dime a dozen. That's just reality.
Well, that's kind of our philosophy too. We've actually I sat down when the first one was born, and I had a lot of free time back then because I was covering baseball, which meant I spent a lot of time by myself in hotel rooms. And I sort of charted out, because my brother-in-law has had 3 kids in travel sports at that, or 2 kids in travel sports at that point. And he told me how expensive it was, right? Yeah. And so I figured out that you might save over, if you get a 4 or 5 year ride, you might save $100,000, considering all the things that you're kind of expected to spend for to get your kid to the point where, the AAU team now sponsors them instead of the other way around, right? So, but no, we're very honest with our kids. I mean,
see that?
We have a sort of a regimen because kids don't play pickup anymore.
No.
There's no pickup basketball in Doylestown. So we figured out routines and workouts that they can do if they go to clinics or whatever. They're expected to bring back 2 or 3 of their favorite drills that they're expected to do and they're expected to perform at home, so you're not just paying for a play date. You're not just getting them there to have fun. They bring it home and then they do the drills there. But yeah, we're very honest with our reviews of them. My wife and I actually coach our middle daughter. Her 6th is going to be 7th grade travel team, and there's a lot of honesty on that court. I'll tell you that.
So you coach with your wife?
Oh well. I coach with my wife, yes. My wife doesn't coach with me. I coach with my wife.
I was going to say, that's amazing, man, because when I was coaching my kids, my wife was the loudest voice behind me telling me how wrong I was. You're taking him out? What do you mean you're taking him out? It's a minute to go in the game. Somebody's got to play. Why ain't he playing?
My wife is she's a wonderful strategist. She She's a, and one of the things that, we tell our travel team every year, the girls that when we have tryouts, we're like, listen, one of the reasons we have my wife coaching is because with girls, especially young girls who are, 10, 12, 14 years old, they've got enough, angry men yelling at them, They don't, if they can see a woman, any woman they can see in a position of power, any woman that can encourage them in a moment of competition, I think that empowers girls. And, we talked a lot about race at the beginning of this conversation. One of the biggest issues we have in our country, I don't know that it is as violently dire as race has been, but there are women, people, feminists who will tell me how is the gender inequity that we have, and the roles that don't really reflect where the power should lie. If you're good at it, you're good at it. And that goes, whether you're a man or you're a woman, and that transcends race. Some of the people who are some of the demographics that are the most oppressed are also the most sexist. And that's a reality that we all have to deal with, and something I struggle with myself. The assumptions I make and the offhand oblique comments or perceptions that I have to check myself all the time.
Yeah. All right. Well, go ahead, Chris. You have one more question? Somebody has a question?
No, just thank you for coming on.
All right, Marcus, thank you so much, man. We got to get you in the studio, though, man. You got to tell your friends about us, man. We need some of them people who you disagree with to come in here so we can make this a little more colorful.
This
We're gonna have to next time, Chris.
All right, man. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much, all right?
Thank you again. Have a good one.
Thank you, man.
Have a good one. All right. All right, guys, man. So now we gotta, we live now. So we had the phone thing. So now, I got you guys on there, man. So let's get into this thing about truth and honesty. First, I want to give a special thanks to my man Marcus Hayes for tuning in, man, and checking us out. So, I want people to know. See, I know y'all think I didn't know him when I was putting it out there, but I do know him. So don't be trying to.
There was some other Marcus.
Yeah, they like. I know that boy too. But yeah, him and Zaire Franklin, which is pretty cool because Zaire Franklin actually plays for Indianapolis Colts. And you in the room with him, and I've been around other people who to me have not been that big, who thought they were like gigantic. And these guys, man, are just so down to earth. They talk to you, they call you by your first name, they want you to call them by their first name, they like, hey, what's up? And I'm watching them, and they just, we having this conversation, like I'm one of them. And it's funny because, you just don't see that. Zaire Franklin, man, is doing an electric slide and doing a Cupid shuffle up with the kids. He's like grabbing them out there, man. And he bought this entrepreneur piece, Biz Cafe, and Mark was there to cover it to one of my schools. And kids actually, they run a coffee shop. They started up. They got to buy the cups. They got to buy stuff. And it's just so cool to see this professional athlete worth all these dollars, walking around, in a pair of jeans with just a regular polo shirt on.
I mean, I do like what Marcus Hayes said about just kind of how he dealt with telling the truth and how he the example of separating himself from liking one specific team, and just making it more so almost as it's about the job, I'm here.
But I think that's what makes them, to my point, who they are, because their ability to do that, to separate themselves and say, even though I'm Zaire Franklin, a football player, I remember being that kid. Even though I'm Marcus Hayes, I remember being and appreciate where you are. But that's honesty to say, how many people say I deserve it? I paid my dues. So I do think, and that's why it's a good topic to have, because as Justin said before Marcus called in, there's so many areas and examples of dishonesty.
And like I said, honesty ain't rewarding.
It isn't.
It's not rewarding.
That's
to be honest, it's not rewarding.
That's what's interesting about him. He gets backlash for giving his honest opinion.
It's different types of. It's rewarding for self. Because you feel good about yourself.
So a lot of self-care. That's why self-lie on resume.
That's why self-lie.
Think about it, because we work in a whole business. Me and your son, right?
I know.
We work in a whole business that requires people. We go through resumes.
They can make it so.
We go through resumes, and we got to catch red flags in people. It's not all the times that they're lying. It's like, well, why are you lying?
Or they over exaggerate.
I like that.
Not
that you're lying, but why are you lying? We take the lie, but you gotta be a good reason.
But hear me out.
This line looks better than another one.
Because obviously we just went through a pandemic, right? Some people didn't have the wherewithal to make it through the pandemic with a job because they have kids or other responsibilities, they may lose a job. Now they're in our world trying to get them back, and they're nervous. They really need the opportunity.
Yeah.
So some people lie because they're nervous. If you're talking to me, you don't have to. Number one, I'm a sensitive, and I appreciate it more if you tell me the truth. But a lot of people, but other people they talk to might want to hear the lie.
Yeah,
to feel cushy.
And Chris talked about that. There's some people who don't want to hear the truth.
Which makes it difficult in today's climate and society. But I do feel like kind of with the approach that Marcus has here, you just gotta put your head down and deal with it. Tell the truth, and it doesn't necessarily affect you that much. You know what I mean? If that person doesn't necessarily agree with it,
well, let me ask you guys this question: Why do you think the truth can actually hurt sometimes? Like, why do you think people take it?
Which side of the truth? Hearing the truth or speaking the truth?
Hearing it.
Oh, it hurt because it's a lot of times it makes you change your you change your behavior.
Well,
it's behavior you doing wrong that you should change.
Some people don't even
People
necessarily
don't like
change
being
their
like told about themselves.
But no, it's being told though. It's not. I'm not saying you're going to change it. I'm saying you know that there's a behavior that somebody's telling you that's undesirable.
Right.
But, and it says a lot about you to I think there's two ways to take the truth. I think one way you can take the truth, and I don't care who you are, some truth thing, and you can say, okay, Justin is saying this because he's trying to make me better. And then the other way to take the truth is like Marcus said, everybody's a hater.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think how is delivered matters though too.
I just don't know about Kevin Samuels.
I mean, I agree. To me, it's like if I give a young lady a dozen roses, she'll smile. But if I take them same roses and start beating her in the head with them, she's not gonna smile. So presentation is everything.
I got you some flowers.
You look better when you smile.
So presentation is you can feel free to use that.
That's a terrible presentation.
No, but presentation matters. If you go up to somebody and say, "Man, you're worse than all that dragon crap," but if you go up and say, "Hey, you can use a mint," it's different. But so I think presentation does matter.
Yeah, that's true.
But the thing about truth is, it is true. It is true, man.
But now this is where it gets interesting because sometimes with the truth, like. You can sugarcoat it, and people they're not going. They're like, all right. Some people need to hear the heart. There's different levels of the truth as well. So
but the problem is, there's some people who like sharing the truth, but don't like hearing the truth. Like I can tell the truth.
Well, who really likes hearing the truth about this?
I mean, but that's what's
you
crazy.
Can't be eager to share if you don't want to hear it.
I'm not saying
not you. I'm not you per se, but you can't be eager. Well, you need to hear this, and then somebody say, "Well, you need to hear this."
Excuse
I
me.
can't believe y'all talking that. But I think let's first start in your experience. How has the untruth impacted you in relationships?
Or just as a comedian too, you can't even necessarily be as
Well,
honest.
I always say this: being a comedian, this is one of the jobs where the audience will tell you the truth right away.
Yeah.
If you're not funny, they will let you know immediately. Like there's no and I've gotten used to that because my dad was like it. My dad is like your dad. Didn't sugarcoat nothing with basketball. Didn't sugarcoat nothing with life or relationship. So. I think the reason I've had successful relationships, both with my homies and my wife, is because I've led with the truth. The truth that I can be a messed up person sometimes. Yeah. You still gonna stay with me after that? Like, let's get it out now. So like, I think honestly, like, and my messed up is messed up in my scale. Like I ain't robbing, I ain't killing nobody, or doing like that. But I do.
We all have flaws. That's really what it comes down to.
And that's what I'm willing to get out. Like at the beginning, like we all started a season together, and you coaching us. You gonna tell us what? It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to win, and y'all gonna have to work hard. Y'all don't think, y'all practice a couple times. We gonna win at 6. Like we gonna win. We gonna win the league.
They tell you, man, I'll be up 20 and a half time. I'm still hollering.
Yeah, see,
what are you doing? Come on, get him.
When I'm playing defense, that's how we get to be down 2 because you let this guy go past 10 times in a row. Nah, but I just think I think. And I want to hear more about it. I think a lot of it is standards. Some people I think if you have high standards, you appreciate people telling you the truth. Yeah. Like for instance, my pop you thought I was brutal. My dad was brutal, man. My father told me, man, so you think you're pretty good, don't you? Yeah, I'm pretty good. Everybody telling me that. He said, I want you to do me a favor. He said, I'm gonna show you how you're not as good as you think you are. Every year I want you to look around that locker room and see if the same faces are with you. He said, by the time you get to your senior year, if you're still in that locker room, you're better than I thought you was.
And was you?
And yeah, I was, but I got his point. I started seeing all them faces change, all them guys who were supposed to be real good, all of a sudden starting to drop off, man.
But how did it humble you when you thought you was the one that was good, but you still needed?
It humbled me because that could be me if I don't continue to work and hone my craft. I was like, yo, he's right. I saw the guy who, when we first started playing, was 10 times better than me. When everybody was saying this dude was going to be All-American Joe, and I saw that. I saw the guys who walk around like, teasing people because they were starting and playing 40 minutes, and then all of a sudden 3 years later, they not playing at all and they quitting because now the roles have reversed. And he was right by seeing it humbled me. It's the same thing in relationships. I think people go into relationships, not to your point, not sharing the truth, not saying, like, I counsel, and I think too many people come into counseling with the aspect as, I don't have flaws. It's all his fault, it's all her fault. Yeah. Or they're not honest. I say, it's like if I got a Volkswagen, I got 20 suitcases. I meet your mom, she got 20 suitcases. 40 suitcases don't fit in the Volkswagen. So we start throwing stuff out, and then all of a sudden we start unpacking this stuff later, and now we're finding stuff out that we didn't know because we didn't tell. I breathe wind at night. I'm being sarcastic. But I got these habits, or like I told people, even people I hire, before I hire them, I'm moody. So you ain't gonna walk in here every day and I'm gonna be like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? I'm moody. So when I act a certain way, it ain't personal, but that also means I'm not trying to have a long dialogue.
Exactly. That makes a relationship so much better. So when I'm working for you and you act like that,
I already know.
Before you take it personal, like, oh, he did say that. He did say he was gonna be on some movie.
My assistant after 3 years is quit. She's leaving for a better job. And it broke my heart, man, because we had to understand it. When she knew when she walked in, what mood I was in, she just worked. It wasn't like he ain't talking to me or he this, he that, and then you have some people who don't. I had a funny story. Girl come for an interview today, and I'm married, I got a daughter, so I know when you just get your toes done. Don't try to fool me. She on these fluffy slippers. And she had on fluffy slippers, and she coming for an interview today, so I'm looking at her feet. So I'm like, I hope you ain't gonna show up for work like that. Oh, I got a bad toe. I've been down this road.
She trying to lie.
Both feet. Well, she wanted to back. But people do it though because she thinks I'm gonna feel sorry. But I'm saying just you can't. I know what happened. You came to your hair, your nail appointment backed up against the interview, and you didn't want to mess you didn't think about what you want more, the job or good nails. But you run across that all the time. Something as simple as that.
She told you the lie that you thought that you wanted to hear.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that, man. I'm married.
Do you think it would have been better if she was just like, I'm sorry, I wanted to get my stuff done before this interview?
Yeah, it sure would have, because then
you would have liked that.
Because
that's
I know.
What I would have said.
Yeah,
because the issue with it is the question is, when people do stuff like that, and that's why I'm gonna get into relationships. Then now, what do I believe now? If I hire you, how do I know you telling me the truth about why you late? All this stuff you start to think about, man.
But it's difficult. I feel like nobody wants to tell you that they're doing something that they feel might be wrong. You know what I mean?
But when I interview people, and I've always told you this, I would rather you tell me the truth and we deal with it, than we sit there and start finding out that stuff ain't true, because that's not how you build a strong relationship. That's not how, to Justin's point, if I tell you from Jump Street that I got issues, don't be getting mad 2 weeks later when you found out I got issues. Versus I'm sitting here saying, I'm perfect, man, and I say this joke all the time. Your mom tell you I don't say this much. I actually tell all the time, when dudes get married, it should be a clause that you can sue for false advertisement. Because people change. Yeah, because people change. And a lot of people change because they faking it, man. Because when you're not living with somebody you dating, you can be a lot of stuff. Your hair is always prissy, everything is done. But then when you got to wake up with that person, you go to sleep with that person, or to your point, Chris, you said it earlier, you can be a lot of things until you start spending a lot of time with somebody.
Yeah.
And I think honesty is overlooked why the divorce rate is up, why so much crap happens, because folk just not honest.
Chris Rocky said, he's like, when you meet somebody, you ain't meeting them, you meeting their representative. You can't get nobody looking like you look, talking like you talk, acting like you act. It's funny.
I'm showing my age.
It's kind of true. Like,
Billy D. Williams, y'all know Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, I know Billy.
He had the Colt 45 commercial. And my boys used to drink Colt 45. And I used to say, let me tell you something. What bar you been to and the girls look like that? You fool, man. They sitting there. Taking the Colt 45 and they perfect. Their hair is. What bar you been to?
I only saw that on Don't Be a Menace to South Central.
So, but Everything is based on lies. Advertisement, everything is based on telling people what you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
It's not based on the truth. Like nobody's gonna say, don't buy this car because in 6 months it's really gonna break down. No, this is a great vehicle, and they go through it. And same thing in relationships, and we get so accustomed to lying and being lied to that a lot of people have accepted it as a way of life.
Yeah, I feel like, does it make it more difficult? That's kind of something I try to ask Marcus. Like, in any type of way, does it make it feel like it's more difficult to tell the truth nowadays? Like,
well, let's go back to Justin's comment that it's not rewarding.
It's the
it's not.
value.
That's another thing too. It's like,
real quick, let me just take it another way. For instance, in our profession, so you gotta tell people the truth of maybe they didn't do so hot in an interview versus what if they did do so hot, and like it's hard to tell a person like, oh, you might not did so well because you may did this wrong, you may did that wrong. I mean, it's just tough, especially when you weren't there.
Why is it tough? Is it tough because of your personal feelings?
Because you don't want to be the bearer of bad.
It's tough because you're a
but
human
you got
being,
the job,
and you don't want to crush people's dreams.
Yeah.
See, this is the dude who wanted to be in HR just to fire people. So this is right. This is right up his alley.
It's crazy. Like my job, that might explain why I just be telling people no.
I used to come home.
Like that.
I would come home.
It don't work like
When
that.
Chris was in college, I would come home and I would be talking to him about different employees. And Chris said, "You want me to fire?"
Yeah.
I was in my college days.
My brother used to do the same thing. My dad had to hire a firepower too. So my dad was like,
Him standing in front of the reporter.
my brother used to call my dad and be like, yo, let me hear you tell somebody what to do. Yeah, some people should be.
Let me hear you tell somebody what to do. That's why he got the job.
Tell somebody what to do real quick. Susan, come here.
But it's something that had to be done, man. And kind of like what Marcus, you almost got to detach yourself from certain things. Like, are you your job? No. That person's not their job. They're going to be able to get back up on their feet.
Yeah, but maybe. No, but see, I was talking to somebody a couple weeks ago about this. There's a lot of homeless people who just dropped out of life. Every homeless person is not on drugs. Every homeless person is not crazy. There's some people who just had something that they felt was devastating. Somebody told them, I was on the call the other night and somebody said something to me and they said, and this is deep, and they said, we were talking about men being able to forgive. And they made a comment that one they thought was the hardest thing to forgive somebody who says, give up on your dreams. Don't.
Wait, what?
The hardest thing to forgive is somebody when somebody close to you says, give up on your dreams. Like,
somebody that tells you to give up on your dreams. And then you listen to them?
No, don't listen to them. They hurt because they're not supporting you. You feel like they, and that's real for some people. And there are people who dropped out of life because guess what? I thought my wife got my back, and then she told me, hey, don't try to do this because you're gonna be no good at it, and that devastates people.
I can see that for sure, 100%.
But it's the truth. That's what I'm saying. So you got to figure out how to, But also, I think this is where the truth says something about you, because if you really believe that's your gift and your talent, it doesn't matter what somebody says.
Exactly.
But then I think what kind of is interesting about all of this at the end of the day is like it almost ties back to some type of accountability in a way. And just being open to listening to the truth and then being able to give it and like just tell people it is what it is without you just gonna have to deal with the consequences, man. Like some people don't like it, but I do feel like it's beneficial in a way and it's healthy.
But like Justin said, it depends on how you view rewarding. I think it can be tough sometimes when you tell the truth, especially when you are in the minority, when you see things different. But I think at the end of the day, there's a certain feeling that you should get, but I think at the end of the day, there's a certain feeling that you should get because you stood for what you believe. Because you were willing to share the truth and accept the truth. I just think that's a part of growing up. That's a part of preparing you for life, man, because life is going to have disappointments. Like people keep telling me, when people say life is not fair, who told you it was supposed to be fair? And people say that because they weren't told the truth. Because somebody told them somewhere along the line that life was fair and you're going to get what you deserve. If you do this, it's always going to turn out like this.
I really feel like I remember you as a kid, and mom too saying this when I would be like, that's not fair. You like, life ain't fair. And that was just like the response.
That was
like,
easy.
And I just always like that just resonated. And I even be saying it now like to people. It's just wild for me to just be reiterating that back out. Like, yeah, life's not fair. But it's the truth. Like, I understand it more now as an adult, because I got bills and other things that I got to take care of, and then dealing with not even just that, social things that are going on out here. Got to deal with that. But some of those things, it is what it is. You
There's
gotta
so many
navigate that.
things that fit into to things that happen to you. One timing. It just may be the wrong time. It's not about being fair. It may be the wrong time. It could be maybe you still need to learn some more stuff. You know, maybe you don't know what you think you need to know. You know, it can be so many things. So many things have to go right. It's like in basketball. You could be this great player, but if you don't have what they're looking for, it's like we went and I took you to the trial down there. Remember the trial down there in West Philly? And the guy came out was talking to me from Rochester.
Yeah.
And he was saying, man, you know, if we needed shooters, I would grab your son. But we need this. And then, so that it had nothing to do with your talent. It's what they needed at that time.
I mean, I do, but then this is my perspective. I do feel like it was my talent because if I had a better handle, then that wouldn't have been a thing.
But that's what I meant. But if it was,
so there's some type of,
if they needed a shooter, you were in.
Yeah,
But
true.
so I think timing has a lot to do with it because you know if they were he said, yo, we were looking for shooters. Yo, everybody in the gym came out talking about how well you shoot, and it was funny because people who play with me was like, yo, you ain't never shoot like that.
But I
They
just
go
always,
like, yo, where you get that from?
And I just take the
Yeah.
mindset or approach like
Yeah.
just to go with that life's not fair. That if I again would have just been better, like if I'd have had a better handle, man, like or doing other things, then it would have worked out. So it's like I don't even look at it as something that wasn't necessarily fair or like timing, but it's just like, yo, you just wasn't good enough in that moment, you know? And like I feel like that now kind of changed my perspective on how I move forward for everything else. Because like, if I want it, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna put the grind in to get better at it, just like I did with basketball. And then being able to take those lumps and being like, man, I ain't make that because I wasn't good
job. I
enough.
remember how much you hated your first job.
Oh yeah, I couldn't stand it, you know? But I went there every day, like, just grinded it out. Because again, I know life's not fair, but I gotta do what I gotta do to get to the next point where I wanna be.
But I also think the way you were brought up and then who you surround yourself with. You know, like I look at some of those videos with y'all jokes and debates and stuff in the locker room. No, but if you surround yourself with that type of person that will continue to push you, you know, you won't say that. But if you're around a bunch of people that constantly make excuses for you, oh, this should have happened, this should have happened.
And I do feel like,
and
for sure, all my friends, like, they can tell me the truth, man. We all we do that with each other. We joke about a lot of these things.
Well, I was going to piggyback on what you said. I think with this whole conversation with honesty, like, you can't really expect it from other people because everybody got their own agendas or whatever. So it got to start with you, like, you being honest with yourself. So you could easily took your dad's perspective of it. Oh, it just wasn't the right place, right time. But you decided to say accountability, take accountability for your game. Like, no, my handle wasn't where it was supposed to be at that time. Because if it was, I would have got the job.
Yeah, if it was, I'd been nasty.
You know, and I got them same circumstances too, where I feel like this was my opportunity, but I wasn't ready. I didn't play up to it. Even though I played like a superstar the game before, it doesn't matter now.
But I also think it comes down to you have to do, and I used to say this to Chris, you have to better control your situation. What I mean, I go back to high school, you know, when and this was honesty. When, you know, Chris was playing, they had him playing out of position. You know, they had him playing the 3 and the 4. But I remember sitting down with the coach, and I said this to all the coaches. I said, look, let me tell you something. You know, I know my son, I know the game. You know, and I'm always honest with my son. I said, he will learn quickly, he will advance, and he can be a blue chip player for you. But you got to put him in a better position to succeed. And I remember him being on the radio saying that. You know, I remember, you know, when you were a junior, he says, I remember when Chris, I remember when Chris's dad came here, and he was like, and I told him. But I think that's the honest part of it, where I was honest with him, he was honest with himself. And that's what I mean. Sometimes you got to look at yourself and not only self-assess yourself, but your situation. You know, and stop saying, yeah, life is not fair. You know what? If it was fair, I'd have been playing Major League Baseball somewhere. But, you know, but what do? Quit? You know, I think this where honesty becomes huge in this day and age, because I think a lot of people get in situations where they're over their head because people haven't been honest with them. You know, you think when you get married, I talk to people married 50-50, but that's a lot from the pit of hell. At one time or another, somebody's giving more. That's the reality of any healthy relationship. There's times when my wife carried me because I was doing some other stuff that allowed me to do what I'm doing and vice versa. But that's what people believe. You know, or the conversation we had, you know, marriage is going to take away my identity, is going to do, people say that consistently. But I think because nobody's been honest with them and said, you know, you have control over those things. You know, or people who, I can't find a job. What are jobs everywhere? You may not be able to find a job making $100,000. Why don't you get some experience under your belt first?
Yeah.
I remember living with people, like having roommates back in the day like that, who everybody in the house had a college degree except for him. He had dropped out, but he was still a homie, so he was staying with us. And we was all paying rent and doing stuff like that except for him. But it's like, yo, bro, why don't you get a job at McDonald's? I ain't working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. I was like, we're being honest right now. Like, you ain't no better than nobody working at McDonald's, bro.
Yeah.
Like, as a matter of fact, they better than you.
Yeah.
Because they getting a check every week. It was like
crazy.
But he was in a situation with the homies. It was young bachelors. It was cool. Like he loved the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, but you don't understand. We was grinding from Monday to Friday. That's what we was doing.
Yeah.
And I've just been fortunate to have a father that made me be accountable at all times. Then I found friends that hold themselves accountable. And you can just already tell when you meet somebody if they hold themselves accountable or not.
But to be honest, they'll tell you about their jobs. Yo, some of the jobs I got them. Bro, look.
I was washing dishes at like 15, 16 years old, man. Like
I was working at McDonald's, so I know. Like,
all day. Like as soon as you get in there,
I worked at McDonald's.
doing grease, like.
I ain't
Well, at least you had the
I've been in the trenches.
That's the baby stuff we were talking about right there. I had to
At least
know
you had
that.
the Constitution Center.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to see none of it. It was like the back end, that was in the kitchen.
So the bathroom just
Right.
But I think like my dad was brutally honest, man. My dad would come to a game, man, and I would play well. I would have the game of life, man. I maybe have a turnover at the end of the game, man. A game where we could win by 20, man. I could have like 25 points. I'd put up a triple double. I come over, man. See, who you passing the ball to? Like, did you see the rest of the game? Did you see? Ray Charles could have made that pass. Yeah, he just was like that. Same thing in baseball. Dude be throwing a no hitter, I get a hit. Yeah, but you didn't get a hit the other 3 times. It was only 1 hit, and he was like that. He just always challenged me, man. It was like, and I grew up thinking nothing, I did was good enough. And then when I got older, we kind of figured stuff out. But he was just critical. One, he didn't, I was the only one that played sports in my family to that level, so it wasn't that big a deal. His thing, what kind of job you gonna get? What you gonna be doing? You ain't gonna be doing this. He didn't tell I was wasting my time, but I could pretty much tell. So I think, so I was able to take criticism. But I know people who the first time the coach said, yo, you're not starting, they quit.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen
They
plenty of
quit.
that too.
Yeah.
Well, what do you guys think the consequences of not being told the truth, like the lasting effects of that?
That's a great question. I think you get people who are just coddled and like kind of in a situation where we are right now, where when you hear the truth, it's like earth shattering. Like nobody's ever said that to me before. You're a liar. Like you hate him. So I just feel like it's definitely consequences to not raising people on the truth, because again, like when you hit reality, like you got 30, 40-year-old people right now that are just learning like how life actually works.
The world is gonna tell you the truth. I don't care how long you college, sooner or later the world gonna say, yo, wake up. This is the truth. This is your reality.
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily, because social media ain't necessarily painting the best picture of reality.
Yeah, but people who go to work, people who try to make it, and I think, to me, to answer your question, I think that's why you have so many underachievers. You have so many people who never reach their potential because they got this false perception of what life is, and the minute things get fair, they drop out. The minute they think things are not fair, they stop trying. Justin got promoted, and I didn't get promoted. Well, you done missed 10 days in the last month. Justin comes here every day 10 minutes early. Or it's always an excuse. And I never look at myself, or I never say, what can I do better? What do I need to prove? Why I didn't get it? So you have people who just quit, man. They're living mundane lives, because they gave up because it didn't, they didn't think it was fair. So why am I going to keep trying? How many times have you heard that? Why am I going to keep trying?
I think your brother's right, your dad's right. It's just the consequence of not being raised on the truth is a hard fall when you have to be the adult. When you don't and accountability is just you telling yourself the truth. People lack accountability. The people struggle to keep jobs, keep relationships, which is just a business relationship.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me and just funny, I think, in a lot of conversations that we have is everything almost comes back to accountability. Like you can't hold yourself to a certain standard of being able to accept the truth and be honest with yourself. Like, how can you hold other people to those standards?
But I think that's the key to. I think accountability is huge in anything you do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the key to being successful. Like I always tell people to pursue excellence. It's not about being excellent, but as long as you pursue it, you're raising the bar for yourself.
Yeah,
Most people will never do that. Most people will always have an excuse. When they were raised, they would set
Not
the bar
even
so
try.
low. They would set the bar so low, you know, and they're satisfied with that. You know, and I think that's the reality. Like I say this all the time, you know, I wasn't the smartest dude in my neighborhood. I wasn't the best athlete in my neighborhood, but nobody was going to outwork me. And accountability was if I wasn't giving 100%, I had to look at me. I couldn't say that, you know, Justin or Chris or Devin. No, I got to give 100%. Because if you give 100%, you come up short, that's life.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come up short, you know you really only gave 80%,
you never
that's
know what
you.
you could do.
Right.
And I think too many people in life, because nobody ever tells them and nobody challenges them, man. Nobody says, like I did y'all. You know, nobody ever said, hey, you know, when you're ready to quit, you need to take that next step and try a little harder. You know, most people says, okay, you're ready to quit, you can quit. You know, and what happens is it becomes a habit of quitting. My dad didn't let me quit any teams. You know, I went out for a team, and I never forget. When I went to play Central baseball, I was 8 years old. My dad, like, you sure you want to go? I said, yeah. He said, well, if you make it, you're not quit. And I went out and I made the team, and I wasn't playing right away. I'm like, it was wasting my time.
He knew you wasn't gonna play.
He said, well, no, because I was
Because you was young. I know.
But I
I'm
was
just
good
saying
as
that's
most
how it
people on the
works.
team.
Though. That's
I
how
just
it
needed a
works.
chance.
Yeah.
And the coach was stuck on the fact that I was 8. Tommy now on his
I
team.
know, that's what I'm just-
And then once we played, we didn't.
I've
You
been
know,
through that.
people quit once we played because they was like these little dudes playing in front of us. But his whole thing was if you start something, finish it. You know, and don't quit because it's not to your liking. And too many people go through life if it's not to their liking. Like I know people who quit and they still quit today.
Right now, it's just like not even necessarily 100% to their liking or just the expected outcome.
Yeah.
You know, like Devin mentions this earlier, like this Disney fairy tale perspective that people have of how their life is supposed to be. Everything's supposed to be fun. Everything's supposed
So
to
when
be.
did you figure it out, like 21?
Everything's supposed to feel good.
When did you
like,
figure it out, like 21?
Yeah, like no, everybody knows. Yeah, like yo, come on, man.
Yeah.
But that's what's kind of I think goes in hand with what makes it a little bit hard to tell the truth too, man. Like everybody feels like everything's supposed to be perfect.
Devin has lived a life. This is my favorite story. We buy him a car, we get to the gas station, and we pull up, and he pulls up, and he doesn't get out.
He was like, oh, y'all
Yeah.
about to pump
He was waiting for me to put he was waiting for me to put gas in the car. Like, dude, I just bought you a car.
I must have been hot that day.
I just bought you a car. Yeah.
You say it's hot,
Yeah.
It was hot, man.
My car is not like the gas.
And your mom was like, well, you know, you really can pay for it. No, I just bought through the car, man. And he was working. Because he had to work in
You
the
can give me a car with no gas.
Hey, but you set him up. Like I told you, y'all the Black Huxtable. Y'all the real life Huxtable. Mine's the Bill Cosby. Mine's the Bill Cosby stuff.
We just
All
talking
the
about the show part of the show.
The Huxtables, they are unblemished. They will continue to be
I
unblemished.
think that's how we should leave it though.
That's it.
Yeah,
But that's what I'm
dude,
saying.
yeah.
You set up a beautiful life for your children. Like I was talking to somebody else who came from the struggle, whose kids they set up a better life, and it was kind of getting mad. I was like, yo man, kids don't understand. I was like, but do you want them to though? Do you want them to understand what you're going like? This is what you work for.
I acknowledge it. I know it, and I don't want to go there.
Yeah, like you can tell them.
I tell people all the
Tell
time.
them how it was.
My parents instilled this in me. It should always be better for your kids than it was for you.
Exactly.
And that's what I
What
wanna
did
do.
you
They
do?
shouldn't have to.
So you get out there and pump that gas for them.
But it
No,
should.
by then, definitely gonna be paying somebody else.
Well,
That's how it
I keep
works.
it 30 point blank. They don't do manual labor. They take
Do
that
not
point blank.
do manual
They're like, that's why you send us to
labor.
college.
Yes, sir.
Seriously though.
They was like,
Seriously.
Yeah,
No, I'm
Exactly.
I do manual labor.
yeah. That's why I have a degree.
I don't think I got a master's degree, but I still do manual
using
labor.
these hands.
I've done manual labor since I had
Unless I'm
a career, so I
typing.
won't say like I'm above. I've done it.
Typing. I'll
But
do
like,
it.
but you only get it for so long.
Right. It's gonna be for my pleasure. I'm not trying to do it for like eight hours.
I'm tripping.
I've done an hour and a half max.
I have a degree.
I mean,
Didn't he take you off?
outside the house. Order.
But see, they don't do that, but they didn't say that when they was kind of enjoying the perks, though.
Man, no.
Whoa,
Look at the
what's
house
up?
now. Like just the house, like the house and food.
Like Devin comes over and looks at the refrigerator. What we got to eat? We don't live here.
Now your house is the real definition of Home Depot. You know what I'm saying? That's where we come shopping.
Everything here. I'm gonna need the projector though in a couple weeks too.
Like Nicole, I go over there like Nicole. When you give me my ladder back? Well, I thought that came with the house.
I still got my dad's equipment in my house right now, man.
Just being honest, you know.
I'm like, what? You know, I ain't good with the house. Yeah.
Still got it.
Open up her trunk of BMW, and my drill is in it. Like, when you gonna give it back?
Yeah.
You bring it here two times a week. Yeah. So it's hilarious, man. All right, we're gonna wrap up, man. And it's 20 after, man. So 19 after. So let's do some closeout. Yeah.
Who wants to go first here?
I'll take it first. Again, I'm glad to be around Above Average Black Men for another week. I'm glad we had Marcus Hayes on there. My pop was super impressed when he heard Marcus Hayes. The Marcus Hayes, you man. So that was dope. And I just like that. I like that hearing his perspective on how he views sports. I view it the exact same way, honestly. I don't give myself. I feel like I will always see sports through an athlete's point of view, because I was there for so much of my life. But yeah, I just think if the honesty has to start with accountability with yourself, and I think you'll make the biggest change from elevating yourself and attracting people that's going to elevate you. So that's my closing thought.
I like what you said about honesty, and I thought it was just pretty cool to have Marcus on, just because, you know, not these kids need to hear, not everyone's going to be a Dwayne Wade or, you know, LeBron James, but you can be him.
Yeah, it could be.
That's very obtainable. So I thought that was pretty cool to hear his background and everything.
So for me, again, just shout out to Marcus Hayes. It was great to have him on today. And it was certainly just good to hear how he deals with being able to tell the truth. But I feel like one thing is for people to kind of challenge yourself to go beyond just having what people, I'm sorry, I'm missing my words. So what I wanted to say was actually to have people start to think about challenging yourself and looking internally every day. We talk a lot about open and being honest, but it starts with yourself. Like, you can't be open and honest with anyone else until you start to look at and challenge your own self and look at the flaws that you have in yourself. And that'll also help you when other people start to bring things to your attention that you may not necessarily be aware of. So biggest thing is just, again, look internally, start to challenge yourself and think about ways in which you can change.
I think the shirts kind of sum it up, man. It says Above Average Black Men, empower, inspire, uplift the community. I think that comes with being honest and accountability. I think there's a generation out there, you know, who are looking for role models, you know, to lead by example and not just talk about it. I think in too many facets of life that there is dishonesty. You know, there is this cloak and dagger thing, and I think this show right here, and is you guys' idea. I think this show right here epitomizes that. You know, I think that a guy like Marcus wouldn't come on the show if he didn't think that, because, you know, he's not going to associate his name with, you know, with crap. You know, he's seen my work, and he has. I think, you know, Justin, I know you shared in this stuff. So I think, you know, that's the rewards of honesty. I think it's not always overwhelming. People don't always see it, but I think in the end it starts to pay off. You know, like there's people listening right now who text me paying attention, and they appreciate it. You know, they appreciate the real talk. I think that's one of the things about this show, man, the fact that, you know, you do have black men sitting around, nobody's cursing, you know, nobody's, you know, Justin always speaks of his wife in the highest regard, you know, he's not, you know, and I think that's rare, that you get a group of black men who are honest enough to talk like we talk. You know, and we don't agree. It's not like we all sit here saying kumbaya. So I think that's important. I think that's what I like about this show. And this show is, to me, is slowly evolving, but it's in that context that it was designed to be. You know, and I say it all the time, you know, it's nothing average about this show. There's nothing average about this show. And to our listeners out there, man, my dad always used to say, man, if you rise to the occasion and shrink to your circumstances. I think everybody in this room rises to the occasion. And I think that's the motto we need. I think that's the motto we need and continue to have.
Drop on the clues box.
Still I rise to my edge of John Wanda Marco.
Where'd you find this?
Yo, my father gave me that quote, man. My father, that's like what you put in the stone,
that was a high honor you could have got. That's for high generation. To drop one of those bombs after you said something.
That's like you put in the It's on, man.
We gotta show you smack. We're gonna show you smack when we turn this on.
All right, man. But that's it, man. So we will see you next week. Above average black men. You know, you got the same guys in this room, man. You have Devin, Justin, Chris, and myself back. And for those of you who I've been hit up about being on the show, I think it's cool. You know, I don't want to take all the guests out into this.
No, but yeah, definitely. I feel free to reach out to us on Instagram. Devin about to plug that.
Well, I want to get a comedy show, man. We got to get all of them guys in here, man.
I'm glad you said that. That was kind of a crazy segue because I just coughed, man. This COVID got me scared of anything. We got a mask mandate coming back at midnight. Just so look, we get some information to you viewers with a mask mandate coming back at midnight. Yes, there will be a comedy show done. I just want to make sure I do it in the safest possible way that all my guests feel safe and protected. Right, exactly. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the guests at the comedy shows are your age group. Like y'all support comedy the best, and y'all appreciate the best. So, you know, people, I know my mom.
In other words, he's trying to sell you a ticket, right?
I would love to get a couple guys in here, man. I think it's cool, man. Because one thing about the show, I do. What I really want to do is I want to uplift and highlight, you know, businesses, man. You know, black businesses. People got these business things they want to do, man.
Well, we are small business owners, or comedians.
Yeah, I do. You know, entrepreneurs.
The entrepreneurs, exactly.
Yeah. So I forgot. I told somebody I was gonna read something for him. So y'all kill some time. I'll find it. You gotta find it. I gotta find it, man.
Follow us above average black man, above average BM for black man.
Yes,
just to let y'all know.
Like you said, you could feel free to send us people that you potentially want to highlight or spotlight in the community. We would love to bring them in and chat, talk to them about different things going on out here.
We're taking sponsors. If you want to get your business sponsored on Above Average Black Man, why don't you reach out to Christopher Pender Jr. or Kevin Pender 11. Just Lamar Comedy. No, it's Just Lamar Story.
Yes.
Well, I wanna Jamal Coleman. I don't know if you listen, so I made you listen to the whole show to get this plug.
That's how you're supposed to do it. That's media 101.
But he's having a Love and Purpose Day. It's called Vets in the Hood. Music by DJ Too Tough in love and memory of Sean Wilson. Saturday at Stanton Park, Saturday, September 11th, from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. 16th in Cortland. You know, vending space available. For more information, you know, I hope you mean to get his number out because it's on the flyer. Jamal Coleman, 215-869-0861. 215-869-0861. You know, this is in memory of Sean Wilson. Saturday at Stanton Park, September 11, 2021. They have live entertainment, vendors, food, you know, double Dutch competition. They got sports. It's gonna be a lot of stuff going on, man. And Jamal's a good dude. We've known Jamal for a long time, man. Who has invested a lot in a lot of kids and stuff in the community, man. So I don't know if you're watching, man. I know I made you watch to the very end, man. But I got my plug in. But as Justin said, as we close, if you got a small business or you got an event or something coming up and it fits into what we're doing, you know, we're not advertising hoochie clubs and strip clubs and, you know, chicken.
That's next season.
Let me separate.
But but I will say this: I am looking for some young people. I'm looking for young people because I want to start a Saturday morning show. You know, done by young people. You know, I'm looking to get 3 or 4 young people that we can do a Saturday morning show.
Is it just video or is it just
we're gonna do it radio. We're gonna
Okay.
do radio, podcast. I want to get a show, man. I don't have a name or anything for it.
You're coming up with it, right?
I don't. Yeah, I just want to get a group of people interested, man. So if you know somebody, man, you know, I want to do a show, a positive show. You know, and I think
You should make them submit like a plan. Make it a competition. What you want to do?
That actually would be pretty dope.
Yeah.
Competition. Like,
For kids,
what
competition.
talk about?
Free show.
Yeah.
These kids don't do competitions, y'all.
That's
right. You never like seeing the video.
I'm just making fun of the young generation.
This is where I got the idea from. As we close,
everyone should
when
get
I
a
was
show.
I was running the summer camp, but at the summer camp, I got put in this class with some older kids, you know, and I was trying to figure out what to do. So I had them develop a radio show. I said, you got to develop your own radio show. I showed them one of our videos. You know, I showed them the videos we were doing. And I said, this is our podcast. Come up with your own show. And they had to come up with a title. They had to come up with a demographic they were trying to target. They had to come up with what kind of people would advertise on their station. And they had to come up with why. And some of these kids are pretty good, man.
Yeah.
You know, some of them are pretty good. So that's what got me thinking about it.
That's like making
And
a
I had to put it on a big
competition,
poster board to write it out. And I started thinking, we could do that on a Saturday morning.
And we can put it on our page.
Yeah, and they could come on, and they could, we could even make it a whole show. They could talk a few minutes about sports. They could do whatever, because they came up with different formats. You know, so I want an opportunity to give back to them. you know, and have young people be represented because.
I believe in it. I think we should do it.
All right, good, because I'm gonna need y'all to come in and help out with some Saturdays. I'm glad y'all feel
So,
sorry about
you
it.
got some Saturdays now.
What time we talking?
All right, yeah, you know,
Yeah,
we
we
know
do
you
it Friday, man.
But anyway, guys, we want to close out now, man. So, you guys want to give a final shout out, some words of wisdom?
Nah, we already did that, man.
Yeah, but I thought Devin wanted to say how he's, you know,
Something about
standing up
Phoenix
now,
and teach
changing
my
the world.
people.
No, we not doing no Phoenix Suns.
Strive for greatness. Try to get better every day.
LeBron James.
Live, love, laugh.
LeBron James. You look at a bunch of angry viewers, man.
We will see you guys next week, 7 o'clock, man. Above Average Black Men.